Hello, and welcome back to the Dental Realist podcast. This is episode 19, and we are happy to be back. We took some time off for the holidays, but we are back and better than ever, and we are recording a little bit later tonight, so if things get a little kooky, you're going to know why. But before we get started on our topic tonight, let me introduce my friends and co-hosts, Dr. Marcus D. Neff and Dr. Troy Stevens. Marcus, how's it going tonight?
Going really well. Spent the whole day in a long meeting, but so I may be a little giddy tonight, have a little pent-up energy, so we'll see how this podcast goes.
And we're hoping Troy can stay awake for this one. This is way past his bedtime, so if you hear snoring in the background, it's just Troy. But Troy is still with us tonight.
Yes, I am really struggling to keep my eyes open right now. It's probably about 30 minutes past my bedtime.
And it's 8:16 p.m. So
yeah, I know, it's so late. It's one of those days when you don't have any energy, you know?
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, it's at the end of our work week, so we're all worn out, but we're happy to be talking tonight. So our topic tonight is the U.S. News and World Report that came out that ranked dentist as the number one job in America. Marcus texted this to Troy and I earlier this week, and first off, guys, I just want to get your initial reactions when you first read this. Marcus, how did you feel? What were your thoughts when you first read this article?
First, I kind of laughed to myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think dentistry is a great profession, but number one best job in the country, it didn't strike as true to me. So I had to read it and had to send it to you guys.
Yeah, we have to clarify, though, this is the 100 best jobs of 2017. Because in 2016, the dentists were not number one. Orthodontists were.
Yeah,
and we all
now
know
we've taken over.
Orthodontists are not dentists.
That's right.
No, they are not.
Yeah, the orthodontists fell all the way to number 5. So,
yeah, they're number 5,
suckers.
2017.
That's right.
Yep.
So, Troy, what were your initial thoughts on this?
I kind of wondered what they were judging it upon. You know, what exactly would cause anybody to think that would be the best job in America in 2017. Not only that, how do they know it's the best job of 2017 when 2017 just started?
Yeah.
That's another thing I don't understand. But, you know, those are the things that I think about late at night.
at like 9? Yeah.
Yes. Right before I go to bed at 7:30 p.m.
So it's funny you should ask, Troy, but the way they did judge this, there were 7 factors. So why don't we go through them, and we'll kind of see how we think dentistry stacks up. The first one was median salary of the job, which they say dentistry is at $152,700. So, Marcus, how do you feel about the salary, basing or judging dentistry as the number one job based on salary?
You know, I think that is a great salary. I mean, you're not going to find a lot of jobs, if you're just talking jobs, where you can go make a 6-figure income in today's world. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great salary, and that may be true of what the median salary is. So if you're just basing it on salary, I can see where dentistry might rank up there fairly high in the rankings. I still don't know if I'd rank it number one just based on salary, but that is a really good 6-figure salary.
Yeah, that is a lot of money, and I guess one thing to think about is the median is in the middle. So there's people making more than that. There's people making a heck of a lot less than that. So if you come out of dental school thinking you're going to make that much money, you're probably wrong, but that is a lot of money. Most people would love to make that much money. Yeah, so, Troy,
if you're just
Troy, what do
thinking
you think?
Job.
If you're just thinking about a job, yeah. Troy, what about you? How do you feel about the salary issue with dentistry?
Well, if I were only making $152,700, given the amount of student loan debt I had and my business loan debt, I would not be able to survive.
Good point.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing is that I was thinking about is that dental school tuition has almost doubled since we got out of dental school, right, guys? We've been out for almost 14 years now, and that's almost doubled. But the salary of dentists has gone down around like $60,000 from the statistics we were just looking at. So, man, I don't know how that's justified. But
yeah, wasn't that in that report by the ADA, the American Dental Association, had an article that was published, Dentist Income Levels Slow to Recover. And this was, a year or two ago that came out?
That was in 2011? 2013? Something in there.
Yeah, I think this was 2011.
February 2013 was when it was published, if you look at the bottom of that page.
But the last year, I guess, was 2011. Is that right?
Yeah.
2011 is what they used to kind of calibrate all the numbers off of, was the average.
Yeah, and so they say in that article published by the ADA that the average annual GP dentist income was $192,392 in 2011. So, assuming that they're getting their numbers are somewhat accurate, and the U.S. News and World Report is somewhat accurate, I mean that's a pretty big discrepancy in just a matter of several years. It's a pretty big decline. It
does decline on what almost not quite $40,000.
So yeah, I mean, as Ryder was just talking about, I mean, if you got tuition for dental schools almost doubling in the last 15 years, and yet in the last 5 or 6 years, a salary has gone down by, $40,000-$50,000. It just doesn't. Yeah. Something doesn't add up there.
Yeah, I mean, how do you? So when we got out of dental school, the average income was $216 for an owner dentist, and tuition was around $200, I guess, for our dental school. So, if you were thinking that income matched what you paid to go to dental school, well, most dentists should be average around $350,000, $400,000, but that's just not the case. So, if you look at just straight income, yeah, that's a great income. But if you're projecting out for 10 years, that's not real promising, looking at these statistics.
And looking at the cost to get into it, if you're looking at return on investment type dollars, that kind of thing, you kind of got to weigh that into that thing too. I mean, you can't just look at that number and go, oh, that's just so much money. But yeah.
Yeah, and
that's a great point, Troy. Yeah.
I think it's important we stress throughout this podcast. I mean, we're not trying to tell anybody, don't go into dentistry, or dentistry's awful. We're just trying to point out some things so you really critically look at dentistry as a career, whether you're a dental student, or whether you're looking to go into dentistry, or whether you're a new dentist. Just realistically look at what you're up against so you can make some good decisions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I like what Troy said about other things that come into this, other financial decisions that come into it, because you've also probably you probably need to buy a practice also, or you go work for a corporation. But if your income is going down, your tuition is going up, how are you going to afford a practice? How are you going to afford a new chair or that X-ray or things like that? I mean, there's just several things to think about. And yeah, Marcus, going back to what you said, this isn't stuff they tell you in dental school. I don't remember ever anyone discussing buying a practice, anything like that in dental school. It was just assumed that we got out of dental school and that we bought a practice, and that's what you did. And nowadays, it's not quite as feasible. I've had a parent of another dentist tell me that his son couldn't afford to buy a dental practice out of dental school because he couldn't go $400,000 more in debt, which $400,000 is probably on the low end to buy a practice.
Yeah.
So, well, let's move on to number 2, which is employment rate. So it's, the report is saying that the employment rate is great. I believe they said the unemployment rate of dentists is 0.1%, which sounds great. But what are your thoughts on that, Marcus?
Well, I think it is probably true. I think if you're someone with a dental degree, you're a dentist, I mean, you can find a job somewhere in this country. I think if you want to work as a dentist, there is a job out there. So if we are just strictly talking about, are there jobs, do dentists stay employed, I'd have to say, yeah, that's probably accurate. Having said that, if you try to dive deeper into it and figure out, okay, well, what kind of jobs are these, even though you're employed, or are you employed making the kind of money you want to make or that you need to make? Maybe not necessarily so. So yeah, the unemployment rate of dentists is probably extremely low, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're super highly successful or making a lot of money.
Yeah, pretty much anybody can come out of dental school and start their practice and say they're a dentist, but that doesn't mean you're making money.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm not sure what that's based on. If it's part-time, full-time, I mean, a dentist could be working 1 day a week and, they've got a job, but it doesn't mean they're gainfully employed and making the money they want. Troy, what about you? How do you feel about the outlook for employment rate for dentists?
Well, I think the 0.1% is fantastic. The unemployment rate, I should say. The fact that I really do think that most dentists who want to work can work at this point somewhere. And like Marcus was saying, not necessarily, maybe for the salary that they want or whatever, but you can find work. In our day and age we live in now, specifically, we have a lot of people coming out of college that cannot find jobs in their degrees. I don't think dentistry is there yet. I think dentistry is still a place where you could find a job pretty dang easily.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe they're basing it on something like that compared to other jobs, because you hear about so many college graduates coming out of school and they can't find a job and they're, working as a waiter or something like that until they can find something in their field. You don't hear about dentists doing that very often. You don't hear about a lot of unemployed dentists unless they're choosing to retire or move on to a different career. So
exactly. And that's usually by choice, not by forced out of the market.
Right.
You don't have a person sitting at home looking for jobs and say, hey, what are you doing? Well, I just got laid off. I'm a dentist.
Yeah, looking through the want ads.
You don't hear that. But like Marcus, like I say, that's pretty important to point out, is not every dentist is making the money they want to make, but you can still find a job.
Yeah, and dentistry is a weird thing, because if you're working at a normal 8 to 5 job and you're getting your 40 hours a week, well, if business slowed down or something like that and you got cut back to part-time and you're only working 25 hours a week, well, that would be like a big hit to your income if you're getting paid hourly. But dentists, it's not looked at that way. We'll go from being busy for 4 full days a week, and then the next week we can't even get a patient to walk in the door. But it's just looked at a little bit different. Nobody considers that aspect. So some months you might not get paid much at all, and you might not be able to make ends meet, even though overall you're making $152,000 a year or whatever. So
we talked a little bit about that, I think, in one of our first podcasts. I think how interesting dentistry was. That you could make so much money and yet seem to have so little left over.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's true. I mean, after you pay your student loans and your practice loans, your equipment loans, your staff, I mean, there isn't much left over.
Yeah, it takes a fair amount of money to run a practice.
Yeah. It does. So let's move on. 3 and 4 kind of go together. It's 10-year growth volume and 10-year growth percentage. So this report was projecting that 23,300 dentist jobs are going to be added, I think, by 2024. So, which may be true. I mean, you could have a bunch of dentists working 1 day a week, but my concern is you're not going to have 23,300 full-time dentists, because, Marcus, what do you think? I mean, are the patients going to increase by that much? I don't know. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't have statistics in front of me, but I don't think the population generally is growing dramatically in the U.S. I think you're seeing the baby boom generation get older, and so you see a certain demographic moving into a different category within dentistry as far as their needs and the type of dentistry that they'll be needing. But I don't know. I have a hard time envisioning that there's going to be all these increasing jobs out there, 23,000 more jobs available. There's not more patients necessarily out there and available, and I'm not so sure how much discretionary income people are going to have. Generally the economy's been pretty, down, and if anything, maybe just like flat for quite a while. So I just have a hard time envisioning where all that demand is going to be coming from that they're projecting.
Yeah, so this report, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that from 2014 to 2024, the job growth of dentists would increase by 18%, which is where they get into 23,300. So, Troy, if your patient base fell by 18%, how would your practice do? I mean, because that's basically, if they increase that dentist by that many, isn't that what it's going to do, is take that many patients away from you?
Right.
I would think.
That would be a struggle, because, I don't know of too many dentists that would come out and, well, they'll tell you this probably at a meeting or something, but if they were really looking at the numbers, they wouldn't say that right now, currently in their position, they still could accept more patients into their current practices. It's not like people are turning patients away because they're too full. They got too many patients. So the thing I'm looking at, and we were doing some studying on this earlier about the future of dentists and how we're having a little bit of what we could call maybe an overpopulation problem, where we're kicking out more dentists than we really need out of dental schools. And we saw this from dental hygienists. I think you guys in your areas are probably the same way. I could hire a hygienist tomorrow. I've got handfuls of people who are looking for jobs and hygienes that aren't really currently employed because the schools are kicking them out so faster than the demand is necessary. So, I don't know. That's to me 18% growth. I don't know. I'm not a statistician, but it just the way that my current practice feels, I don't think that number could be really accurate.
Yeah, I don't know if that could. Yeah, and mentioning the overpopulation of dentists and hygienists, I mean, we were talking about 6 hygiene schools in my state, in Utah, graduating probably an average of 30 hygienists a year, but they all come out of school expecting to make, $30, $40 an hour. And, they're kind of a dime a dozen around here sometimes. If you find a good one, yeah, it's worth hanging on to. But, they see themselves in a position to demand this high salary. But I don't know how they can demand that when the numbers show that dentist salaries are falling and falling quickly. And so I don't think the rest of the staff realizes that, assistant pay, front office pay, hygiene pay, it's all going to go down. Just because there's more dentists graduating doesn't mean that there's going to be more jobs, because if we're all working 2-3 days a week, we don't have the money to pay for all the staff.
Yeah, we could argue that the increase in the dentists will decrease our pay.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Current dentists and the overall salary of dentists will decrease over the next 10 years instead of increase.
Yeah.
That's my belief.
Yeah, I believe fully. Troy, I believe whatever you say.
Well, I appreciate it. I feel good. Thank you.
Well, that kind of transitions, Troy, into the future job prospects, which is number 5. And so this report is saying that there's these great prospects for future jobs, which we've kind of hit on. Yeah, if there's 23,000 opening up, that sounds great at 152,000 a year. But man, I don't know if we need to say much more about that. But it doesn't feel like a real positive thing. So if you're considering dental school, if you're in dental school, if you just graduated, keep your head up. We're not trying to get you down here tonight, but we feel like we might.
Well, can I bring up one other thing? I was looking at this. This is called StudentDoctor.net. It's a forum, and sometimes student dentists will get on there and ask questions and stuff. And there was a couple things from even 6-7 years ago that people were discussing and talking about challenges as they were having with finding jobs right out of school and things like that. And, granted, who knows where they were looking, maybe, California, New York, which is kind of getting saturated and things like that. But some of the frustration of some of the students then, one guy had mentioned he was going to be $300,000 in debt. That's a lot more than we were.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still paying on my student loans. I mean, I haven't put any additional into them because I can't really use it tax benefited me at all. But, it's like it's something that never goes away, and then all your other debt that comes on top of it. So you're kind of like, I don't know about the growth stuff.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I made any sense right there.
You did.
You did.
You made perfect sense to us, and hopefully to somebody else.
Listened to it a couple of times.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime. I'm having a rough time thinking about it.
All right. Well, let's move on to something we definitely know something about, and this is the stress level of dentistry. And this was saying that, this report was basically saying that the stress level isn't extremely high, but Marcus, we've got to tell people the stress level is plenty high being a dentist. So why don't you tell us how you feel about them saying dentistry is the number one job based on partly on the stress level.
Yeah, I don't know so much about that. I think even a dentist who handles stress really well and is pretty good at just letting things fly is going to feel some pretty significant stress. I mean, you think about the nature of what we do every day. I mean, we're treating fearful, anxious people. We're doing really delicate procedures that are demanding. I mean, the level of precision and accuracy we strive for is like almost unattainable. I mean, that's the pressure we put on ourselves. The demands of managing staff members. If you're a practice owner, I mean, you've got demands on you for taxes and payroll and equipment and just numerous things. I mean, so I don't know that I would say the stress level for dentists is just it's just average. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I haven't worked in a lot of other job areas in my life. I mean, since becoming a dentist, definitely it's just been dentistry. But I don't know. I just in my personal experiences, it can be a pretty stressful career, more so than an average stress. And I think a lot of that has to do with you as a person and how you manage stress and how you deal with that. But there's my 2 cents.
No, that's totally true. And we've talked about, some guys and girls can just let the stress roll off their back and they don't worry about it at all. But we were talking about it earlier this week, and Troy, you were saying how things keep you up at night. So what kind of stresses in dentistry will keep you up at night?
Well, just dealing with people and patients and knowing how to deal with, certain procedures and things that patients need, meeting expectations of patients. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Your staff, you worry about your staff, making sure that they're getting, what they need out of their jobs, make sure they have job satisfaction. I mean, the buck stops at you. And we've talked about this before. Dentistry is a kind of a unique deal because we're the CEO and the grunt and everything in between. And that is a challenge, trying to put on all those hats all day, every day, and try and keep harmony in the office and everything like that. I absolutely find it interesting, and I don't know who they interviewed with this stress level thing, that I would not say that we are average. I would say clearly above average stress for dentistry. I mean, I've not worked a tremendous amount of jobs, maybe 10 other jobs or something. I've never felt stressed like I do in dentistry. Granted, I didn't own any of those companies that I worked with or worked for, and I don't know if that would play a part into it, but stress is one of the main reasons one of the main things I do not like about dentistry.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we've talked about it. There's always the money issue. There's patience. It sucks to have somebody come in every day, and it's not just one person every day. It's several people, and say how much they hate to be in your office. And, they say it's not personal, but it sure feels personal when they're telling you that they hate you and hate what you do for a living. And, sometimes when people say thanks, thanks for seeing me, thanks for being so nice to me, you almost want to give them a hug because it's so few and far between the people that say that. But, I agree. The money is dealing with the staff, like you said, Troy. I mean, trying to keep them happy as the owner or even just as the dentist that, you still feel like the boss. Marcus, he doesn't own his practice, but he definitely feels like the boss, I'm assuming, Marcus, and that still probably stresses you out to try to keep the staff happy.
Yeah, and they still, I mean, even though I'm an employee of a company, I mean, the staff still kind of has that mentality that, the dentist is kind of the authority in the office. And so, yeah, I don't have the direct responsibility of making their, paying them or their benefits or all those kind of things. But there's still kind of the role of being in charge and managing people and things that go on in the office.
Yeah, and I think this is an area where the stress area is where it's almost like we care too much sometimes, because we do care if that filling fails or if that crown fails or if our patient goes home in pain. Yeah, part of it is that we don't want them to hate us, but part of it is we actually want things to be successful. We want to do good work. We take some pride in what we do. And if you go to any dental meeting, and we've talked about this on some of our other podcasts, and you ask another dentist how things are going at their practice, they're always going to say it's great. It's great. Things are so wonderful. I've got so many patients. It's great. We're so busy. But that's what we always heard before dental school, but that's not always true. I mean, usually we can ask people that at meetings, but the three of us are the only ones that are giving the honest answers to each other. And we're probably guilty of it when people ask us how we're doing. How do you love dentistry? How are things going? Well, it's great. I love it. It's the best thing ever. And that's how we carry on. In dentistry, we're just not honest with each other sometimes.
Well, it's kind of like the Facebook thing, like you look on Facebook or social media, nobody posts all the crappy things. I mean, some people post crappy things on there, but mostly people are posting their amazing picture of their dinner, or the amazing thing that they just did that day, or it's nobody sits and tells you the real crap that they deal with or the stuff that they're going through every day. So as dentists, when we get together, nobody wants to admit that they're struggling with something, or something was hard, or they're having a hard time making payroll this month, or
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they post stuff about how their kid scored 25 points in their basketball game, but they didn't post that he failed like history or something like that.
Right. They're never going to put that on there.
I don't know.
No, it's a very, very strange dynamic. It's one of those things where you got to be real about it to be able to find out how to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. If you can't admit the problem, you can't solve it, kind of thing. And we find oftentimes, even when that podcast we had a couple weeks ago, a lot of dentists will just spew out all this beautiful stuff. Even when you and I, all of us, we were, talking to dentists before we went to dental school, everything seemed to be all hunky-dory and everything was perfect. And, but you weren't the person being fully responsible for everything and knowing, hey, this impression has to be perfect. This crown has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. You have to make sure that all the patients are happy, the staff's happy. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It's true. And when your office is slow and you have to send staff home or they don't work that day, you start to worry about, are they going to have enough money to get by? Are they going to look for another job? It is stressful. And that money comes out of your pocket to help cover stuff like that when it gets slow. So,
yeah.
Well, you guys have anything else to add about stress? Or have we got everyone stressed out enough now?
Yeah, I'm so stressed out I probably won't even be able to sleep tonight now.
Oh, Mark. Troy's going to be up till 10 o'clock.
Oh.
I know. I'm going to break some sort of a record.
All right, so the last one was work-life balance. And Troy, we've been talking about it this week. How do you feel being a dentist, your work and life are balanced?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, aren't you? I think that dentistry offers a fantastic work-life balance in certain respects. For example, I mean, we all of us only work 4 days a week. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is phenomenal, right? You pull in a decent income, you work 4 days a week. You have a lot of family time and a lot of free time. I mean, it's basically 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday. And Ryder, you actually worked most of your career up to now in 3 days a week because you had an associate work and some of this. So it's even better hours, right?
Yeah.
However, what I do find a disadvantage is sometimes I get home, I'm so wiped out, I don't do anything with my family. And we talked about this a little bit, and you guys, I think, feel similar sometimes. You'll get home and your kids will want to play or whatever, and you're kind of like, yeah, okay. And I think that happens in a lot of different careers and things like that as well. You get wiped out from work. But dentistry, for whatever reason, I've never experienced it in any other job that I had, really wipes me out to where mentally I'm just exhausted when I get home. But as far as the hours go, you really can't beat it. It's phenomenal that way.
Yeah, it's real great. And yeah, I think we do all feel the same way, that sometimes the emotional wear and tear on you during the day is even tougher than the physical. I mean, it's not like we're running a marathon every day, but your body is worn out after being, bent over, standing on your head, trying to fix this tooth. And and then all the small talk and everything like that, dealing with the staff, the patients, it can be emotionally draining.
Yeah,
Marcus, oh, sorry, go ahead, Troy.
No, it's all. I just say yes, it is. It's just so emotionally.
But Marcus, you're a happy guy most of the time. How are you feeling about your work-life balance as a dentist?
I think it's kind of the same as Troy. I mean, you look at what the possibilities of the number of days you work, the hours you work, and it's pretty darn good in that respect. But I find there's plenty of times that I've had a busy day at the office, and I've been doing, running here and there. I've been around people all day, and man, I just want to come home and kind of be by myself, or just do something on my own, And so it can be hard to balance life with the demands and the stresses and strains that dentistry can put on you.
Yeah, that's the truth. So, well, guys, what do you feel like this U.S. News and World Report got right? Like, what did it really nail when talking about dentistry as the number one job? Marcus, let's start with you.
Oh, sorry.
Troy, let's start with you. Go ahead.
I always have to go after Marcus.
I'm sorry. You're always second fiddle to
Marcus. He
Marcus.
has all the good ideas, and then I'm left with just
it's because you're left-handed. I'm sorry.
Just kidding. No. I think that if you're an outsider looking in, I think they nail it. How many times do you have people that just see that you're a dentist and just assume that you're this highly successful, unbelievably rich, low stress type guy because you only work 4 days a week? I mean, honestly, everybody thinks
everybody
thinks that, except for the dentist who's in the grind and knows what's going on, right? I think if you rate it from an outsider's perspective, they did really well. I think it does rank up to the top 5. I mean, it's a fantastic lifestyle, but I think the stress kind of overplays some of the downfalls. But if you're rating it, if you were a dentist rating this, you would not rate it number 1. I don't even know where you would rate it in the top 100 best jobs. I wouldn't go into that, but I definitely do not think it would be number 1 based on being an insider.
Yeah, I think, salary, I mean, that's great. Employment rate, it sounds great, but it might be a little misleading. The growth, I think, also misleading. Future job prospects, probably also a little misleading. Stress level, definitely a lie. And work-life balance, pretty good. So, Marcus, what do you feel like this report missed? Like, what would you have wished that they would have included and discussed more when talking about dentistry as the number 1 job, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing they missed was just that I don't think it's the number 1 job. Just personally, I mean, I'm a dentist, and I think it's a pretty good career, and but that's probably the biggest thing they missed. But I think you guys covered it, or you just did. I mean, most of that's a little off the mark. I mean, I don't think they were as completely upfront about. I mean, they just looked at raw numbers and then just came to a conclusion. It didn't look really deeper beyond what those numbers might implicate, or whether those numbers were really accurate.
Yeah, and I wonder how many dentists, if any, they talked to. I actually tried to reach out to them on Twitter and ask them that. They didn't reply. I thought for sure the U.S. News and World Report listened to our shows all the time, but I guess not. Yeah, but I feel like the ADA could probably step in and help with a lot of these areas and not let it be so misleading to dental students. And I think the one thing we always talk about is we wish we'd had our eyes open when we went into dental school and graduated dental school, so that we would have expected to have to deal with some of these things. And maybe that was us being naive, but I don't feel that way. I think most new dentists are kind of the same way. They get out of school and expect everything to be smooth sailing, buy a new car, a new house, everything like that, and they don't realize what they're getting into. I wish they had probably talked a little bit more about debt and what kind of debt you're coming out of dental school with, what it costs to get into practice, what your starting salary would be. Because median salary, I mean, that sounds great, but the median salary in the NBA is like, I don't know what it is, $12 million, but the last guy off the bench is making like, $800,000, which still is pretty good, but that's a big drop off.
Yeah.
Look at me. Yeah. I just compared myself to the NBA, but whatever.
That's because you wish you were in the NBA.
I've never, you guys
living
know me.
in the past, right?
I've never seen a shot I didn't like.
We do know that. That is the truth.
You do like to shoot a basketball.
What? You guys are fading out a little bit. I can't hear you.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
All right, guys. You guys have anything to add before we wrap this show up? Marcus, you have anything to add?
No, I think this was a pretty good topic to cover. Again, I don't think we're really not trying to discourage people from looking at dentistry as a career or continuing in dentistry for their career. But there's just some things that you really need to think about. Sometimes an article comes out like this that just said blanket, just throw something out there. Oh, dentistry is the best job in the entire country. Well, I mean, there's some things to think about. Maybe it's not the best job for everyone. Maybe it's not the number one job for everyone out there. So,
yeah, that's a good point. You need to evaluate yourself more and see if you're right for dentistry. Troy, do you have anything to add? Is this any more hogwash to add? We haven't heard hogwash in a while, so I just want to throw that.
Hogwash today. Hogwash. No. There we go. Now it's on the record. Nah, just the same thing as Marcus. Just, when we first read this article, we thought, how the heck could they have, given that? What was it about dentistry that made it number one? There's a whole bunch of other things to evaluate when you're looking at that. There's talk to some dentists that will actually speak the truth to you and that kind of thing. They don't go into a lot of detail about some of the stuff. So we just wanted to talk about it in a real way, like we always try and do on our podcasts, and kind of let you know that that it may be number one, but yeah, keep your eyes open, and be on the lookout for certain things that aren't covered in that article.
Yeah, and one thing, if you're in dental school, it really helps to talk to some of the faculty that's part-time, that works on the clinic floor, that they're usually actually practicing dentists that work out in the real world. They'll usually give you a little more honest information than the professors will, because the professors are institutionalized. They don't see a lot of patients in private practice, so you don't get a lot of information out of them. If you're a new dentist, or even an experienced dentist, if you want to get in touch with us, we would be happy to pass on any information that we or any, answer any questions you might have. But Marcus, why don't you tell everybody where they can get a hold of us?
So you can find us on Facebook. Dental Realist is on Facebook. We're also on Twitter @DentalRealist. You can send us an email to dentalrealist@gmail.com. We'd love to get your feedback. Also, any questions you may have, topics you'd like us to discuss. We also have a couple of books that are available out there. There's So You Want to Be a Dentist, and we also have So Now You're a Dentist. Both great books, if I do say so myself.
You just did?
Shameful plug.
Both great books, a lot of good information, easy reads, but really valuable, actionable information in there.
I was just reading through So You Want to Be a Dentist the other night, and I learned some stuff from us already.
That you even wrote, probably.
I may have. I don't know. Maybe I did. Yeah. So
we learn by repetition.
That's right. That's
Keep
what we
telling
do.
ourselves things over and over again.
Check out our website, too. Sometimes I forget to plug that, but we do have a website, dentalrealist.com, and we have some blog posts that we've put up there. Several of those posts have been featured on different websites and different places, so check us out there also.
Yeah, all good stuff, and we appreciate you tuning in. Get in touch with us if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Leave us a review on iTunes, and this has been episode 19 of the Dental Realist Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.